Ethernet LANs. In this video, I'm going to talk about the Ethernet and also Ethernet LANs. You know that in previous video, we talked about the data link layer, and data link layer function of the TCP/IP model is to making ready the packets for sending on the physical link. You know that when we are using the copper cable or fiber optic or air, we need to use a different data link layer protocol because we have different media and we need to use different for example, data link layer for making ready the packets to forwarding into these three different for example media. We will learn about the differences of the sending data and technologies of the data link layer for example, copper cable and also for the air. But now I am going to talk about the Ethernet. Let me to review some of the topics that I mentioned before. After that, we can start talking about the Ethernet, but it's so important to understand the Ethernet with detail, because the Ethernet is one of the most important technologies that we are using and exclusively in the LAN. Because of that, this video is one important video for the LAN. And also let me to say that today's we are using Ethernet in LANs and also WANs. This is the new technology, using Ethernet in WAN. Because of that, it's so important protocol, and we need to understand the function of the Ethernet. Because of that, let me to start with first reviewing some of the topics that I mentioned before. You know that in one enterprise, okay, we have two parts of networks. The first part is the first type of network is the LAN network and LAN side of the network, and the second side is the WAN side. Look at here. Assume this is one building of our company, and this is for example building one residing in one city, okay? And here, as you can see, we have a switch connected to the PCs, to the server, or to the IP phone. IP phone is a device we can use it for sending the VoIP traffic onto the LAN. In this course, it's not necessary to talking about the IP phone, but this is one host. For example, as you can see, this is the LAN of the building 1, and here is the LAN of the building 2. Look at here again. Here we have a switch connected to some PCs, servers, and also for example, access point. Let me to the IP phone. Let me to say that in many cases today we can see another device. We call it access point. Access point also should connect to the one of the switches of the LAN, and you know that with access point we can connect to the network with wireless signal, with Wi-Fi signals. Look at here, this is the AP, and you know that the AP is the abbreviation of the access point. Okay, this is like a for example wireless switch or wireless hub, access point. Okay, and the PCs, tablets, cell phones can connect to the network with the wireless signals or with the waves. Okay, look at here, this is for example my laptop connected with wireless signals to the access points, or this is for example my tablet again connected with wireless to wireless networks. And this means that in LAN, in some part of LAN, we have wired networks, and in some other part we have wireless network. Let me to write here, we have wired network, means we are connecting to the network with the wire, for example this PC, this server, this IP phone. And in some part of the LAN we are experiencing now today's wireless network. And you know that for wireless network, okay, we need some devices such as the access point or wireless network interface card in our devices. Okay, the Ethernet is the technology we are using it for the wired networks, Ethernet, okay? And for wireless networks, we are using another technology. One of the technologies is the Wi-Fi, or IEEE 802.11. I will talk about the Wi-Fi in future videos in this course, but in this time I'm not going to talk about the wireless. I'm going to talk about the Ethernet only. Ethernet is the technology of the wired networks, not wireless networks. The code of the Ethernet, I will talk about that, but let me to say that the code of the Ethernet is IEEE 802.3. okay? Because of that, now we are talking about the Ethernet or IEEE 802.3. Most enterprise computer networks can be separated into two the general type of technology. The first is LAN or local area networks, and the second is WAN. You know that wide area network. You know that we need the WAN links for connecting our LANs together. Assume that the building 1 is residing in one city and building 2 is residing in another city. How we can connect these two buildings to each other, okay, with using the links that we can take from the service providers, from the telecommunication companies or telcos, okay? Because of that, this is a WAN. In most cases, the WAN links has another owner, and for example, the owner of the WAN links are the service providers, okay? But the owner of the LAN and the devices, the cables in the LANs is us. And because of that, for connecting two or more than two LAN together, we need to give help from the service providers or telecommunication companies. Let me to give you one definition about the LAN. You know it, but I'm going to review it. LANs typically connect nearby devices in the same room, in the same building, or in a campus of building. In contrast, WAN, okay, connects devices that are typically relatively far apart. And together, LANs and WANs create a complete enterprise computer network working together to do the job of a computer networks. What is the job of the computer networks? The job is delivering data from one device, for example, this device, to the other devices, okay? And in this video, I'm going to talk about the Ethernet. You know that in LAN, the nearby devices, we have two technology. The first is the for wired part of the network, Ethernet, and the second for wireless part of the network, the Wi-Fi, okay? Now I'm going to talk about the Ethernet. But here, as you can see, I mentioned Ethernet LANs. Why we need to say Ethernet LANs, okay? Let me talk about this. In these days, for example, 2 or 3 recent years, okay, we are using Ethernet also on the WAN. In the many years, we used the Ethernet only on the LANs. LAN experienced some technologies. For example, one of the old technology, legacy technology of the LAN was token ring. Maybe you heard the name of the token ring, okay? Or also we had another technology in the LAN, we called it FDDI, or fiber distributed, okay? Fiber distributed data interface. Fiber distributed data interface. And after that, the Ethernet and the family of Ethernet, okay? But these three technologies were the technologies of the LAN in the for example, many years. But the token ring now is expired, FDDI is expired, and now we have only this technology, Ethernet technology, in our networks. But in new days, in the recent years, we are using WAN also on, we are using Ethernet also on WANs. We call it, for example, ELAN, okay, or some other names. Because of that, we have some differences between the Ethernet LAN and also Ethernet WAN, okay. This means that today's we can say we have Ethernet LAN and also Ethernet in WAN, It's so interesting. Maybe for you, because you are hearing that for the first time about the Ethernet, this is not surprising, but this is surprising for me that we can use Ethernet in the WAN. Okay, don't worry about the detail. Let me to say that now I'm going to talk about the Ethernet only in the LAN, and this is one of the most famous, most popular, most interesting technologies that you have seen ever, and because of that, it's one of the important parts of our course in the CCNA course. All of the communications that you are experiencing in the LAN, okay, in your for example a SOHO, in your room in your enterprise, or in your building of your enterprise, are using the Ethernet. Because of that, this is so important for understanding the function of the Ethernet. But before starting the Ethernet LAN, you know that, now you know that why we are talking about the Ethernet, because this is the popular technology, or the only technology of the LAN. Because of that, we need to understand it. Okay. All right, let me to say that the Ethernet is a protocol of the TCP/IP model. Let me to write here the TCP/IP model. You know about it. In TCP/IP, we have 5 layers. Application layer is the layer 5, and you know about the function of this layer. After that, we have another layer, we call it transport layer, the layer 4. After that, we have the layer of the network, the layer 3, and after that we have the data link layer. Data link layer is the layer 2 of the TCP/IP, and finally we have physical, and physical the layer 1 of the TCP/IP. Let me to say that maybe you think that Ethernet is working on the data link layer. It's okay and it's correct, but let me to say that Ethernet has 2 functions. The first function of the Ethernet is working on the data link layer. Because of that, Ethernet is one of the data link layer protocols that make ready the traffic for sending on the copper link and also on the fiber optic link. Okay, and because of that, we can say that Ethernet has 2 parts. The first part of function of the Ethernet in data link layer, and also Ethernet has another part of function in the physical layer. All of the data link layers are data link layer protocols are related to the physical, because you know that when we are using the physical copper cable, or for example fiber optic, we need to use Ethernet. When we are using the for example air in the physical layer, we need to use, for example, Wi-Fi. This means that the protocol of the data link is related to the physical layer. Because of that, we can say that Ethernet is a protocol that is working in 2 layers, physical and data link. Maybe in most documents you see that Ethernet is working on data link, but let me to better understand, better know about the Ethernet. Ethernet has 2 parts. The first part is the physical function of the Ethernet, and this second part is the second function is the Ethernet in data link. In data link, Ethernet's works is that making the packet ready for sending or for forwarding the network. You know that in this layer we are making the frames. This is the function of the